"You're not supposed to see this," Jason Carter mutters under his breath as he steps onto the slick wooden dock, the night air thick with the briny scent of the Atlantic and the faint trace of diesel from the cargo ships moored nearby. A thin fog drifts across the water, curling like ghostly fingers along the edges of the old pier, each plank groaning softly under his boots. The sky is a bruised purple, the moon barely a sliver behind rolling clouds, and every creak of the ropes and chain links echoes in the silence, punctuating the steady slap of waves against the pilings. Titan, his German Shepherd K9, emerges from the shadows ahead, his black and tan coat glistening with moisture, ears pricked, eyes glinting amber in the dim light. In his jaws, he carries a torn baby blanket, frayed edges wet and clinging, its muted pastel colors dulled by the night and rain. Jason freezes, his breath catching in his throat, heart thudding louder than the distant foghorn, instinct warning him that this is no ordinary patrol. The dog pauses mid-step, tail low but stiff, nose twitching as he scans the surrounding darkness. The faint scent of something fragile, something in need, hangs in the air, mingling with the dampness of the docks. Jason moves slowly, hand brushing the side of his holster, eyes never leaving Titan, following the precise rhythm of the dog's movements, the way his paws press into the wet wood with quiet purpose. The blanket shifts slightly as Titan adjusts his hold, and Jason's chest tightens. He senses the urgency in the dog's stance, the unspoken message conveyed in every controlled step. The wind whips off the water, carrying with it the faint tang of rust and salt, and Jason can hear the subtle rustle of debris further down the pier, the soft shuffle of something stirring beneath a tarp, the faint, almost imperceptible whimper that makes his stomach knot. He takes another careful step, boots sliding slightly on the slick surface, eyes straining through the fog, scanning the shadows cast by stacked crates and barrels. Titan pauses again, head cocked, ears swiveling, amber eyes locking onto a narrow gap between two containers where darkness seems thicker, almost alive. Jason tightens his grip on the flashlight in his hand, the beam cutting a narrow path ahead, revealing splintered wood and rain-soaked ropes. He whispers Titan's name softly, and the dog tilts his head, letting out a low, urgent whine, a sound that vibrates through Jason's chest more than through the dock. Each movement is deliberate, every pause measured. Jason can feel the tension mounting, the way the fog and night conspire to obscure what lies ahead. Finally, Titan darts forward with sudden precision, nose down, paws silent against the soaked planks, the blanket still clutched carefully in his mouth. Jason follows, heartbeat matching the rhythm of the dog's determined strides. The beam of light catches a small figure huddled against a stack of crates, partially covered by discarded tarps and the shadows of the pier's supports. Jason halts a few feet away, chest heaving, eyes wide, taking in the sight of a tiny bundle nestled in the wet and torn blanket, its soft whimpering barely audible over the slap of waves. Titan sets the blanket gently over the figure, nudging it with careful precision, tail wagging slightly, eyes meeting Jason's with that unwavering, commanding look. "We have to help them." Jason swallows, voice caught somewhere between awe and disbelief, as he crouches down, sliding his jacket over the small, shivering form, his hands careful, warm, steady. The night presses around them, fog swirling, water lapping, and for a moment, time slows, the dock fading into the background, leaving only the connection between Marine, K9, and the fragile life they have discovered. Jason whispers words of assurance he barely believes himself, voice low and even. "You're safe now. We've got you." Titan sits back on his haunches, ears still pricked, watching over the scene with vigilant intensity, the amber eyes scanning every shadow, every movement, ensuring that nothing disturbs this fragile miracle unfolding beneath the moon's muted glow, the scent of salt and wetwood mingling with the faint warmth radiating from Jason's hands as he shelters the tiny figure against the chill of the night. The fog clings thicker now, curling around the pilings, and the coils of rope like silent witnesses to the small miracle unfolding. Jason Carter shifts the small bundle closer to his chest, feeling the faint heat of life that radiates through the wet fabric. Titan steps ahead again, nose low, paws soft against the damp wood, tail stiff but not tense, guiding Jason through a narrow path between stacked crates and slick patches where the tide has left pools of brackish water. Each step must be measured, each breath considered, for the wood beneath them creaks and groans, protesting under weight and water. The distant lights from a docked freighter glimmer faintly through the fog, but they offer no warmth, only a pale contrast to the dark shapes around them. Jason's hands, gloved but steady, brush the stray strands of hair sticking to the small figure's damp face, his own breath fogging in the cold night air as he murmurs quiet encouragement, a steady rhythm meant to calm both the fragile life in his arms and the anxious K9 beside him. Titan halts suddenly at a gap between containers, ears swiveling sharply, body low, eyes flicking to Jason with an unspoken command. Pay attention, follow carefully. Jason nods subtly, feeling the weight of trust between them, the bond forged through years of drills, missions, and quiet understanding that words could never capture. The fog seems to thicken here, hiding both danger and possibility, and the faint sound of dripping water echoes off the metal sides of the crates, punctuating the stillness. A low whimper from the bundle draws Jason's attention. He leans slightly, ensuring the figure is positioned safely against him, voice soft as he whispers, "We are almost there, just a little further." Titan moves again, confident and deliberate, circling low to ensure no obstacle is overlooked, occasionally looking back to check Jason's position, his amber eyes reflecting the pale light with intensity. Jason feels the rhythm of the dog's steps, the heartbeat of this silent team, and allows himself to notice the faint hint of warmth from the damp fabric pressing against his coat. Somewhere ahead, he senses an opening, the vague outline of a small shed or lean-to that the K9 seems to indicate. As a safe space, shelter from wind and water, Jason navigates carefully, boots slipping slightly on algae-slick planks, one hand steadying himself along a crate, the other holding the precious cargo. Titan pauses at the threshold of the shelter, nose raised, inhaling sharply, tail still, stance alert, ensuring no unseen hazard is present. Jason exhales slowly, chest rising, shoulders relaxing slightly, trusting the instinctive guidance of his companion. Stepping inside, the smell of damp wood and mildew fills the small space, but it is safe, sheltered from the night's chill. Jason places the bundle gently on a clean layer of folded tarps he finds inside, checking once more that it is secure, warm, and covered. Titan circles the small area once, ears pricked, eyes alert, before settling on the edge of the space, posture protective, but calm. Jason crouches beside the bundle, brushing the wet hair from its face, listening to the shallow, steady breaths, feeling the slow return of warmth to fingers pressed lightly against fragile skin. He whispers, "You are not alone anymore. We are here. You are safe." Titan lets out a soft, reassuring whine, nudging Jason's hand with his muzzle, and the small figure stirs slightly, eyes blinking open to meet the steady gaze of the Marine. The fog outside presses against the thin walls of the shed, muffling distant sounds, the waves a low, constant rhythm in the background, but inside there is a bubble of calm, a quiet miracle made tangible by trust, persistence, and the unspoken bond between a man and his K9. Jason straightens slightly, scanning the dim space, feeling a moment of relief wash over him, knowing that Titan's careful guidance and unwavering presence brought them to this point. The night continues outside, relentless and unforgiving, but within the small shelter, warmth and light find their way into damp corners, and the fragile life in Jason's arms breathes easier, soothed by the soft, vigilant presence of a companion who has never left his side. Each heartbeat, each gentle sigh, each attentive glance between Jason and Titan carries a silent affirmation that the journey, perilous and uncertain as it was, has led to safety. The storm will not claim this night. For now, in the quiet of the foggy dock and the small shelter, there is only trust, protection, and the slow unfurling of hope. Jason Carter listens for the sound that does not belong to the dock, the sound underneath the rain, underneath the groan of old boards and the low breathing of the tide. At first, he thinks it is only the wind pushing through the gaps in the shed wall. Then Titan rises. Not fast, not loud, just suddenly awake in that still, certain way he has when the world has missed something important. The German shepherd turns his head toward the back corner of the small shelter, where stacked canvas covers sag beneath years of salt air, and his ears point forward like two dark blades. Jason follows his gaze, one hand still resting lightly near the small child wrapped in his field jacket. The little one has stopped shivering so hard now, though every breath remains delicate, shallow, too quiet for Jason to trust. "Easy," he whispers, though he is not sure whether he is speaking to the child, to Titan, or to the part of himself that has begun to tremble. Titan steps toward the corner and lowers his nose to the floorboards. He inhales once, then again, deeper, slower, searching through the layers of mildew, rope, old fish crates, motor oil, rainwater, and fear. Jason moves beside him and lifts the corner of a heavy tarp. Beneath it sits a small canvas diaper bag, soaked along one side, its zipper half open. Inside are a few baby clothes, a small plastic bottle, a folded receipt from a diner 3 miles inland, and a photograph sealed inside a clear sandwich bag. Jason pulls the photograph free with careful fingers. A young woman smiles at the camera under summer sunlight, holding the same child against her shoulder. Behind her stands a white porch with blue shutters and a hanging basket of yellow flowers. Written on the back, in hurried ink, are 2 words. "For Caleb." Jason looks down at the child. Caleb. A name changes things. A name makes the fragile weight in his jacket feel even more human, even more urgent, as though a door has opened inside the darkness and let in a thin line of morning. Titan nudges the diaper bag, then noses beneath the tarp again, refusing to let the moment settle. Jason frowns. "What else, boy?" Titan gives one sharp breath through his nose and turns toward the shed door. Not toward the road. Not toward the main pier. Toward the narrow service walkway that runs behind the warehouses, a forgotten strip of boards half hidden by fog and tall marsh grass. Jason lifts Caleb gently, tucking the field jacket tighter around the child, then slings the diaper bag over one shoulder. The shelter had felt like safety for a moment. Now it feels like the first clue. Outside, the fog has thickened until the dock lights glow like candles behind frosted glass. Titan moves ahead at a controlled pace, never more than a few yards in front, glancing back every few steps to make sure Jason is following. The service walkway bends along the water, slick and uneven, its railings cold beneath Jason's palm. To his left, the harbor opens wide and black, breathing against the pilings. To his right, the warehouse walls rise like sleeping giants, their corrugated metal sides ticking softly as rainwater drips from the roofs. Caleb stirs once, making a faint sound no louder than a kitten, and Jason lowers his mouth near the child's covered head. "Stay with me, Caleb. That is it. Keep breathing." Titan stops near a loading bay door with peeling green paint. A strand of the torn blanket is caught on a rusty nail beside it, fluttering in the damp wind like a small flag. Jason's chest tightens again. Titan sits, then looks up at him. This is the place. Jason shifts Caleb securely in one arm and tests the door with his free hand. It gives with a long, tired creak, opening into a warehouse that smells of wet cardboard, salt, dust, and old lumber. The flashlight beam slides over empty pallets, stacked crates, and tire tracks dried into muddy streaks across the concrete floor. Nothing moves. Yet Titan does not relax. He walks in slowly, nose down, following a path only he can read. Jason follows, boots echoing softly in the wide room, every sound swallowed by the high ceiling and the storm outside. Near the far wall, Titan stops beside a wooden crate turned on its side. Inside is a small knitted cap, pale blue, damp but clean enough to show it had been loved. Beside it lies a woman's scarf, caught under the crate's edge, and another photograph, this one water-damaged, the ink bleeding at the corners. Jason kneels as much as he can while holding Caleb, and a quiet ache moves through him. Someone had been here. Someone had tried to keep this child warm. Someone had not meant for him to be alone. Titan suddenly lifts his head and gives a low, urgent whine. From somewhere beyond the warehouse wall comes a faint knocking sound. 3 soft taps. Then silence. Jason goes still. Titan looks toward a side door marked stairs, his body rigid, his amber eyes shining with fierce purpose. Jason feels the child's breath against his jacket, feels the cold, wet air moving through the warehouse, feels the old familiar pull of a mission forming around a life he has only just learned to name. He rises slowly, voice barely above the rain. "Lead the way, Titan." And the dog does. Titan reaches the stairwell before Jason does, but he does not rush inside. He waits at the threshold, body angled toward the darkness below, ears high, one paw lifted as if the air itself has told him to be careful. Jason pauses behind him, Caleb held securely against his chest, the diaper bag pressed under one arm, the flashlight clenched between two fingers. The stairwell drops beneath the warehouse in a narrow concrete throat, its walls damp, its metal railing cold and slick with condensation. The knocking comes again. 3 soft taps. Not loud, not panicked, just steady enough to prove it is real. Jason feels the sound move through him like a hand placed over an old scar. "Hello," he calls, keeping his voice low so it will not frighten the child. The word travels down the steps, bounces once, and fades. For a moment, there is only rain on the roof and the slow drip of water somewhere below. Then a faint voice answers, thin as thread. "Please." Jason closes his eyes for half a second. Not in fear, not in doubt, in prayer. Then he opens them and follows Titan down. Each step takes him deeper into the underbelly of the pier, where the smell of salt water grows heavier and the air turns colder, almost metallic. The flashlight beam trembles across cracked concrete, old storage lockers, and puddles that reflect the light in broken pieces. Caleb stirs against him, and Jason tightens the jacket around the child with careful pressure. "I have got you," he murmurs. "Both of you, if that is what this is." Titan descends without sound, his nose working constantly, reading the damp floor like a map written in scent and mercy. At the bottom of the stairs, the space opens into a service corridor beneath the warehouse, a forgotten passage built decades ago for dock crews and storm storage. Rusted pipes run along the ceiling. A faded sign points toward pump room B. The tapping comes from there. Titan moves to a gray metal door and sits. Jason steps close and sees that the handle is jammed, not locked, swollen by moisture and age. He shifts Caleb carefully against his shoulder, braces one boot against the concrete, and pulls. The door gives an inch, then catches. Titan whines softly, urgent but controlled. Jason sets the diaper bag down, wraps the child tighter in his jacket, and tries again. The metal groans. The gap widens. Cold air slips out, carrying the smell of wet clothing, old wood, and fear held too long in silence. Jason leans his shoulder into the door and pushes until it opens enough for Titan to squeeze through. The dog enters first, not barking, not startling anyone, only stepping gently into the darkness as if approaching something wounded. Jason follows with the light. In the corner of the pump room, on top of stacked sandbags and away from the shallow water spreading across the floor, sits a young woman wrapped in a faded gray coat. Her hair is dark blonde and damp against her cheeks. Her face is pale, exhausted, but her eyes lift instantly to Caleb. Everything in her changes. The fear breaks open into something raw and holy. "My baby," she whispers. Jason crosses the room slowly, the way a man crosses a chapel when he knows something sacred is waiting. "His name is Caleb?" he asks. The woman nods, tears gathering but not falling yet, as if even her grief is too tired to move. "I put him where someone would find him. I could not get." The door opened. The water was coming in. I heard a dog. Titan steps closer to her, lowering his head until his muzzle nearly touches her hand. She looks down at him, startled by the gentleness. "You came back," she breathes. Jason understands then. Titan had found the baby first, then returned for the one who had been left behind by accident, by storm, by the cruel timing of a door swollen shut. There is no villain in the room. Only a mother, a child, a dock swallowed by fog, and a dog who refused to let distance become goodbye. Jason kneels and places Caleb into her arms. The woman gathers him close with a sound so soft it nearly disappears beneath the rain. Caleb makes a tiny sigh, and his mother presses her cheek against the top of his head, rocking once, twice, as though the whole world can be repaired by that small motion. Jason looks away for a moment, giving them privacy without leaving them alone. His flashlight beam settles on a purse near the sandbags. Inside, visible through the open top, is a driver license. Emily Parker. Age, 27. A local address in Beaufort County, 12 miles from the pier. Beside it is a folded discharge paper from a hospital, dry inside a plastic sleeve. Jason does not pry. He does not need the full story yet. He only needs to get them out. Emily, he says gently. Can you stand? She nods, but when she tries, her knees tremble. Titan moves beside her, offering his body like a living railing. Jason almost smiles despite the cold. That is Titan, he says. He is better at this than most people. Emily places one hand on the dog's back, and Titan holds still, steady as a promise. Jason lifts the diaper bag, checks Caleb one more time, and listens to the rain above them. The storm has not ended. The tide has not fallen. But the impossible part has already happened. A torn blanket became a message. A silent dog became a messenger. And in a room beneath the docks, where no one was supposed to hear anything but water, a mother and child have found their way back to each other. Jason leads them out of the pump room the way he was taught to move through darkness, slow enough to protect, steady enough to give courage to the people behind him. Emily keeps one hand on Titan's back and the other around Caleb, who rests against her chest in Jason's field jacket, small and quiet, but warmer now, his breath soft against the wet fabric. The service corridor seems longer on the way back, as if the old pier itself does not want to release them yet. Water drips from the pipes overhead, ticking against the concrete with patient, hollow sounds. The air smells of rain, rust, and river mud dragged in by the tide. Jason walks half-turned, his flashlight angled toward the floor so Emily can see every step. There is a landing ahead, he says. Take it slow. Emily nods, though her face is pale with effort. She is not weak. Jason can see that at once. She has the exhausted strength of someone who has already spent everything and still found one more breath for her child. Titan senses it too. The German Shepherd does not pull ahead now. He stays close to her knee, matching her pace, his broad shoulders calm beneath her trembling fingers. When they reach the stairwell, the sound of the storm grows louder, rolling down from the warehouse above like distant drums. Jason looks up and sees the faint rectangle of lighter darkness at the top. It is only one flight, maybe 14 steps, but to Emily it might as well be a mountain. I can make it, she whispers before he can ask. Jason does not argue. He only nods. I know. Then he climbs backward 2 steps above her, keeping one hand ready without touching her pride unless she needs him to. Titan presses gently against her leg, not forcing, just reminding. Emily lifts one foot, then the next. Caleb stirs once and makes a faint sound, and the sound steadies her more than any command could. Halfway up, she stops, breath shaking. Rainwater runs beneath the door overhead and slips down the first step in thin silver lines. Jason hears the old warehouse creak above them, hears the wind push against the walls, hears the tide slap hard against the lower pilings. For 1 second, doubt reaches for him. Not fear of the storm. He has known storms. It is the quiet terror of being responsible for lives that cannot carry themselves. He glances down. At Titan. The dog looks back at him, amber eyes bright, unwavering. Jason remembers another night years before, another dark passage, another reason to keep moving when the body wanted to stop. He swallows and says softly, almost there. Emily looks up at him, her eyes full of rain and exhaustion. Why did he find us? She asks. It is the kind of question that has no simple answer and every answer at once. Jason looks at Titan, then at Caleb's small face tucked beneath the edge of the jacket. Because he knew someone needed him. Emily closes her eyes for a heartbeat, then takes the next step. When they push through the stairwell door into the warehouse, the space has changed. Fog has crept beneath the loading bay gaps, spreading low over the concrete like white breath. The flashlight beam catches the muddy tire tracks, the pale blue cap, the scarf, the small evidence of a life interrupted by weather and wrong turns. Emily sees the cap and lets out a broken breath. I thought I lost it. Jason picks it up and places it gently in the diaper bag. Not tonight. Titan moves toward the loading bay and stops, staring into the fog. Jason hears it then, the distant wail of a siren, faint but growing. He had managed to press the emergency signal on his radio when he first reached the shelter, but the storm had swallowed most of the transmission. Somehow, someone received enough. Red and white light begins to shimmer through the rain outside, bending in the fog, flashing across the warehouse walls like the first fragile sign of morning. Emily clutches Caleb tighter, not from fear now, but relief so deep it hurts. Jason raises his hand, guiding her toward the open bay. The wind hits them at once, cold and wet, carrying the smell of diesel, salt, and wet pavement. 2 county emergency responders hurry across the dock in rain jackets, their boots splashing through shallow puddles, faces sharp with focus. Jason gives them the facts in clipped, steady words, the way training taught him to speak when emotion must wait its turn. Mother and infant. Cold exposure. Conscious. Shelter found below warehouse 3. No visible injury. Need warmth and medical evaluation. The responders move with practiced care, wrapping Emily and Caleb in dry thermal blankets, checking breathing, asking gentle questions. Emily answers only some of them. Her eyes keep drifting back to Titan, who stands beside Jason, soaked, still, and watchful. When the responders guide her toward the ambulance, she stops and turns. "He saved my son," she says. Jason looks down at Titan, who is staring at Caleb as if counting each breath from a distance. "He saved both of you." Emily reaches one hand from beneath the blanket and touches Titan's head. The dog lowers it slightly, accepting the touch with quiet dignity, reins sliding from his ears. Caleb makes a small sigh against his mother's shoulder, and Titan's tail moves once. Not much, just enough. The ambulance doors open, filling the dock with warm yellow light. Emily steps inside with Caleb, and Jason watches as the doors close softly, not like an ending, but like shelter being built around them. The siren does not scream when it leaves. It only hums low and careful through the fog, carrying mother and child away from the water toward heat, medicine, and dawn. Jason remains on the dock, rain running down his face, field jacket gone, uniform damp to the skin. Titan stands beside him, the torn piece of blanket still near his paws. Jason picks it up, wrings a little water from the edge, and folds it carefully. It is only cloth, frayed, stained by rain, almost weightless. Yet tonight it had spoken louder than any alarm. He tucks it under his arm and looks toward the eastern sky, where the black has begun to soften into gray. Titan leans lightly against his leg, and Jason rests a hand between the dog's wet ears. For the first time all night, he lets himself breathe. The ambulance lights fade slowly down the service road, red and white reflections breaking apart in the puddles until the fog swallows them whole. Jason Carter remains beneath the warehouse awning with Titan at his side, listening to the last low hum of tires pass beyond the gate. The dock feels different now, not safer exactly, but changed, as if the night has exhaled after holding its breath too long. Rain still falls in thin, silver threads, tapping on the metal roof, running down the stacked containers, dripping from the ends of ropes like beads from an old rosary. Jason holds the folded piece of blanket in one hand and his radio in the other, his fingers stiff from cold. A county deputy asks him for a statement, and Jason gives it carefully, keeping his voice even, keeping the facts clean. Time located. Condition found. Route taken. Where Emily had been trapped. Where Caleb had been discovered. He does not mention the feeling he had when Titan first appeared with the blanket. He does not say that some part of him knew, before there was proof, that the dog was carrying more than cloth. Some truths sound too fragile under fluorescent questions. They are better left beneath rain and prayer. The deputy nods and writes, then glances at Titan. "That dog of yours is something else." Jason looks down. Titan is sitting beside his left boot, soaked through, muzzle dark with rainwater, amber eyes fixed on the road where the ambulance disappeared. "Yes," Jason says quietly. "He is." A few minutes later, the port supervisor arrives in a yellow slicker, apologizing for the old service doors, the flooded corridor, the broken emergency lights that should have been repaired months ago. Jason listens without judgment. He has seen how easily small neglect can turn into a long night. A door not checked, a light not fixed, a radio signal swallowed by weather. None of it looks like a crisis until someone is trapped in the dark calling for help. Titan rises suddenly and walks back toward the loading bay. Jason follows because by now he has learned not to ignore him. Inside the warehouse, dawn has begun to thin the shadows. The concrete floor shines with rain tracked in by boots. The pale blue cap is gone, tucked safely into the diaper bag before Emily left. but the faint imprint where the crate had been remains in the dust. Titan moves to the far corner where the scarf had rested and lowers his nose. Jason crouches beside him. There, half hidden beneath a wooden pallet, is a small silver cross on a broken chain. It is simple, worn at the edges, the kind sold in hospital gift shops or tucked into Christmas stockings by grandmothers, who believe protection can be carried close to the heart. Jason picks it up gently. On the back, barely visible through scratches, is one engraved word. Caleb. He closes his hand around it and feels something in his chest soften and ache at the same time. The child had been named before the storm, loved before the fear, covered before the cold. That matters. More than reports. More than explanations. More than the clean language people use afterward to make miracles sound ordinary. Jason slips the cross into his breast pocket and stands. We will get it back to him, he tells Titan. The dog looks up, and for the first time since the rescue, his tail gives a tired sweep. Outside, the first gray light of morning spreads over the harbor. The freighter horns call out low and mournful, and the gulls begin their restless circles above the water. Jason walks the length of the pier with Titan beside him, checking each route they took, making sure nothing and no one else has been left behind. His boots pass the narrow service walkway, the shed where Caleb had first been warmed, the stairwell door that opened into the damp underpass. Everywhere, the night has left evidence. A muddy paw print, a torn thread, a smear of salt water on concrete. But the fear is lifting now. In its place is the strange quiet that follows mercy, the silence after a prayer is answered but before anyone knows what to say. Jason stops at the edge of the dock and looks out over the water. He thinks of Emily in the ambulance, wrapped in thermal blankets, holding her son close beneath warm yellow light. He thinks of Caleb's small breath against his jacket. He thinks of Titan stepping out of fog with that torn blanket in his mouth, carrying a message no human had heard. Jason has worn medals that felt lighter than this piece of cloth. He has stood in ceremonies where people used large words for courage, sacrifice, honor. But this morning, honor looks like wet paws on old boards. Courage looks like a mother tapping 3 times from behind a jammed door. A miracle looks like a dog refusing to stop searching after everyone else would have gone still. His radio crackles, breaking the spell. The hospital confirms mother and child are stable, warming, and under care. Jason closes his eyes, just once, long enough to let the words sink in. Stable, warming, under care. 3 ordinary phrases that feel like church bells. Titan presses his shoulder against Jason's leg, heavy with exhaustion now that the work is done. Jason kneels and rubs the rein from the dog's neck, his voice rough but gentle. You did good, partner. Titan leans into him, eyes half closed, as if praise means less than the simple fact that they are still together. The sun finally breaks through a thin seam in the clouds, not bright, not dramatic, just a quiet pale gold touching the water, the warehouse walls, the torn blanket in Jason's hand. He folds the cloth one more time and holds it close, knowing he will carry it to the hospital with the silver cross. Not as evidence, not as a story, as a promise that no soul found in the cold should ever wonder whether help is coming. By mid-morning, the storm has moved out over the Atlantic, leaving Beaufort County washed clean and shining beneath a thin winter sun. Jason Carter drives toward the hospital with Titan lying across the back seat of the Marine Corps vehicle, his coat towel dried but still rough from salt and rain, his eyes open, watchful even in exhaustion. On the passenger seat rests a small paper evidence bag, though Jason does not like that word for what is inside. The torn blanket and silver cross are not evidence to him. They are pieces of a night that almost went unheard. The hospital rises ahead in pale brick and glass, its entrance busy with morning traffic, nurses changing shifts, visitors carrying coffee, a man in a ball cap holding flowers that lean tiredly in their plastic sleeve. Jason parks near the emergency entrance and sits for a moment with both hands on the wheel. He has walked into hospitals before. Too many times. They all have the same language of antiseptic, rubber soles, soft beeping, and waiting room prayers whispered into sleeves. Titan lifts his head behind him and gives one quiet breath, not quite a whine, not quite a command. Jason looks at him in the mirror. I know, he says. We are going in. The automatic doors slide open with a soft hush, and warm air surrounds them. Titan walks at Jason's left side, calm and disciplined, drawing glances from children, nurses, and an older veteran sitting near the entrance with a cane across his knees. A little girl in pink sneakers starts to smile at Titan, then stops when she sees the seriousness in the dog's eyes. Even children know when a dog is working. Jason checks in at the desk, gives his name, and waits while the receptionist makes a call. The lobby smells of coffee, disinfectant, and rain drying off winter coats. Down the hall, a baby cries once, sharp and alive, and the sound passes through Jason like sunlight through a closed room. He does not know if it is Caleb. He hopes it is. A nurse named Marlene comes for him a few minutes later. She is in her late 50s, with silver hair pinned neatly under a clip and the steady eyes of someone who has held strangers together for a living. "Sergeant Carter?" she asks. Jason nods. They are stable. Tired, but stable. She asked if the dog could come. Jason looks down at Titan. He would take that personally if he could not. Marlene gives a small smile and leads them through a quiet hallway where the morning light falls in pale rectangles across the floor. Room 214 is near the end, away from the busy nursing station. The door is half open. Jason stops before entering, not because he is afraid, but because some rooms deserve a moment of respect before a man steps inside. Emily Parker sits propped against white pillows, her damp hair now clean and brushed back, her face still pale but softer in the light. Caleb rests in a clear bassinet beside her bed, swaddled in a hospital blanket with a tiny knit cap on his head. He is awake, moving one small hand against the air with the slow wonder of someone who has no idea the world almost lost him. Emily looks up, and the first thing she searches for is Titan. The dog steps forward carefully. His nails click once on the floor, then he lowers himself beside the bassinet. Not too close, not too far, as if he understands hospital rules better than most adults. Emily covers her mouth with one hand. "I was not sure I dreamed him," she whispers. Jason removes the paper bag from his coat and opens it gently. He brought something back. He places the folded blanket on the chair beside her, then sets the silver cross in her palm. For a moment, Emily cannot speak. Her fingers close around the little cross, and her eyes fill. "My mother gave this to him when he was born," she says. "She said every child should have something that tells them they are watched over." Jason looks toward Titan, who is now gazing into the bassinet with quiet fascination. Seems like she was right. Emily laughs once through her tears, a sound so small and broken it feels like healing beginning in a place no doctor can reach. She tells him what happened in pieces, not all at once. She had been driving back from visiting her sister near the coast when the rain became too heavy and the road near the port access flooded. Her old car stalled by the warehouse road. She carried Caleb toward the dock office lights, hoping someone was working late. The storm pushed harder. A loose door to the lower service area had been open, and she stepped inside to get out of the wind. Then the old metal door stuck behind her. Her phone had no signal below the warehouse. She wrapped Caleb in the blanket, kept him warm as long as she could, then heard a dog somewhere above. "I pushed the blanket through a broken vent near the floor," she says, voice shaking. "I thought maybe he would smell Caleb on it. I thought maybe he would bring someone." It sounded foolish, but it was all I had. Jason says nothing for a few seconds. He looks at Titan. The dog had not simply found a clue. He had answered a mother's last thread of hope. Emily reaches toward the bassinet, and Titan gently lifts his nose to the rail, sniffing once. Caleb turns his tiny face toward the warmth of the dog's breath and opens his eyes. They are gray-blue, unfocused, new to everything. Titan freezes, utterly still. His tail gives one slow sweep against the floor. Emily smiles through fresh tears. He knows him. Jason feels his throat tighten. Dogs remember what matters. Nurse Marlene stands in the doorway, pretending to check the chart, though her eyes are wet. Outside the window, sunlight breaks fully through the clouds and touches the edge of Caleb's bassinet, turning the clear plastic gold for one quiet second. Jason has seen light fall on medals, flags, folded uniforms, and polished floors. None of it has ever looked like this. Emily holds the silver cross against her heart, then looks at Jason with the kind of gratitude that does not need many words. "Thank you," she says. Jason shakes his head gently. "Thank Titan." Emily does. She reaches down and rests her hand on the shepherd's head. Titan closes his eyes, leaning into her palm with the tired grace of a working dog whose mission is finally understood. Caleb makes a soft sound from the bassinet, and everyone in the room turns toward him at once. For a breath, there is no storm, no cold dock, no jammed door beneath the warehouse. Only a mother, a child, a Marine, and a German shepherd standing in warm hospital light, surrounded by the quiet proof that mercy can find even the smallest opening and still make its way through. The story does not end in room 214. Not for Jason Carter. Not for Titan. Not for Emily Parker or the little boy sleeping beneath the soft hospital light. By late afternoon, the sky over Beaufort County has cleared into a pale blue washed clean by rain, and the world outside the hospital windows looks almost ordinary again. Cars pass on wet streets. A delivery driver carries paper bags through the lobby. Nurses move from room to room with quiet shoes and practiced mercy. But Jason knows ordinary is sometimes only what a miracle looks like after it has settled down. He sits in a chair near the corner while Emily rests, Caleb asleep against her chest, one tiny hand curled over the edge of the blanket the hospital gave him. Titan lies beside the bassinet, his chin resting on his front paws, his eyes never fully closing. Every few minutes, Caleb sighs or shifts, and the German shepherd lifts his head just enough to make sure the sound belongs to peace. Emily notices each time. Does he always watch like that? She asks. Jason looks at Titan, then at the rain dried on the dog's fur and faint salt marks. When something matters, Emily lowers her gaze to her son. Then I am glad we mattered to him. Jason does not answer right away. He thinks of how many people spend their lives afraid they do not matter enough to be found. He thinks of Emily tapping in the dark, trying to turn hope into sound. He thinks of Titan standing in fog with a torn blanket in his mouth, certain of what no person had yet seen. You mattered before he found you, Jason says at last. He just proved it. Emily closes her eyes, and a tear slips quietly down the side of her face. She does not wipe it away. Some tears are not meant to be hidden. A soft knock comes at the door, and Nurse Marlene steps in with a folded note in her hand. The sheriff's office found your car, she tells Emily gently. It is safe. Flooded some, but safe. Your sister is on her way. She should be here in about an hour. Emily nods, relief moving through her so visibly that her shoulders seem to lower for the first time all day. Caleb sleeps through it, his tiny mouth soft and open, untouched by the weight of what the adults understand. Marlene turns to Jason. The staff has been talking, she says. That dog is half the emergency department asking to meet him. Titan lifts one ear, as if fame is a suspicious noise. Jason almost smiles. He is off duty. Marlene looks at the shepherd lying beside the bassinet. I do not think he believes in off-duty. No one in the room argues with that. As the afternoon stretches toward evening, Emily's sister arrives, breathless and tearful, carrying a coat, a phone charger, and the kind of guilt that loved ones bring when they did not know help was needed. The sisters embrace carefully around Caleb, whispering words that are too personal for Jason to hold. He steps into the hallway with Titan, giving them the space grief and gratitude deserve. The corridor smells of floor polish and warm coffee. Outside room 214, an older Marine veteran sits in a wheelchair near the window, the same man Jason noticed earlier in the lobby. His name tag from a volunteer group reads Walter Briggs. He watches Titan for a long moment, then looks up at Jason. That your partner? Jason nods. Yes, sir. Walter's hand, spotted with age, rests on the arm of his chair. Had a shepherd in Vietnam, he says softly. Name was Bishop. Could find a man in elephant grass before anyone heard a thing. His eyes move to Titan, and the years inside them grow tender. They carry more than we ask them to. Jason feels the truth of that settle between them. Yes, sir. They do. Walter reaches out with permission in his eyes, and Jason gives Titan a quiet command. The dog steps forward and lowers his head beneath the old man's hand. Walter strokes the fur between Titan's ears once, slowly, reverently, like touching a memory that has waited 50 years to come home. Good boy, he whispers. Titan stands perfectly still. Jason watches the old Marine's face change, not into happiness exactly, but into recognition. Some reunions happen without the one we lost being there. Some are carried by scent, fur, warmth, and the mercy of resemblance. When Jason returns to the room, Emily is sitting up, stronger now, Caleb wrapped safely in her arms. Her sister stands beside the bed, red-eyed but smiling through the fear that is finally draining away. Emily holds out the small silver cross. "Would you help me put it back on him?" she asks. Jason steps closer. His hands are large, shaped by years of work, but they move carefully as Emily lifts Caleb just enough for him to fasten the broken chain temporarily with a small safety pin Nurse Marlene provides. The cross rests against the baby's blanket, tiny and bright. Titan rises and places his front paws gently near the base of the chair, not jumping, not pushing, only lifting himself enough to see. Caleb opens his eyes again, unfocused and calm. His small hand moves once, fingers spreading toward the dog's muzzle. Titan leans close, and Caleb's fingertips brush the damp black fur above his nose. The room goes still. Not dramatically, not like a movie needing music. Still the way churches become still when people stop asking and simply receive. Emily presses her lips together, tears shining again. Her sister whispers, "Oh my goodness." Jason looks away toward the window, where the last light of day has turned the clouds peach and gold above the hospital parking lot. He feels something loosen in him that he had not known was tight. All day, people have thanked him, but the truth is simpler. He followed. Titan led. Mercy did the rest. A doctor comes in with final updates before evening rounds. Caleb will remain overnight for observation, but his temperature is steady, his breathing is good, and Emily needs rest more than anything else. The words are plain and professional, yet they land like blessings. Stable. Good. Rest. Jason stores them away like medals that do not need ribbons. When it is time for him to leave, Emily reaches for his hand. "Sergeant Carter," she says, voice steadier now. "When Caleb is older, I want him to know this story. Not the scary parts. Just that when he was little, a good dog came for him." Jason glances at Titan, whose tail moves once at the sound of the child's name. "Tell him the truth," he says. "Tell him his mother did not stop hoping." Emily looks down at Caleb, then back at Titan. "And tell him the dog heard me." Jason nods. "Yes, ma'am. Tell him that too." He and Titan walk out as evening settles over the hospital, the halls glowing warm behind them, the air outside cool and clean after the storm. In the parking lot, Jason opens the back door of the vehicle, but Titan pauses before climbing in. He turns his head toward the hospital entrance, ears forward, as if listening for one last breath, one last small sound from the child upstairs. Jason waits. He has learned that some moments cannot be hurried. After a few seconds, Titan steps into the vehicle and lies down with a tired sigh. Jason closes the door gently. Above them, the first star appears in the clear Carolina sky, small but certain. Jason stands there for a moment, hand resting on the folded torn blanket under his arm, and understands something he could never write in a report. Sometimes a miracle is not loud. Sometimes it has wet paws, tired eyes, and the patience to carry hope through the fog until someone finally follows. 3 weeks later, the same harbor looks almost gentle beneath the afternoon sun. The old boards of the pier have dried to a weathered silver. The warehouse doors have been repaired, and the service corridor beneath warehouse 3 carries new lights that glow clean and steady against the concrete walls. Someone from the Port Authority has painted fresh safety lines along the loading bay. Someone has fixed the jammed metal door. Someone has placed a small sign near the stairwell that reads "Emergency access, keep clear." To most people, it is only maintenance. To Jason Carter, walking beside Titan with the winter wind moving softly off the water, it feels like a promise made visible. The dog pauses near the spot where he first appeared through the fog, and Jason stops with him. There are no sirens now. No rain ticking against metal. No desperate tapping beneath the floor. Only gulls circling above the channel, ropes creaking against the tide, and the warm smell of sun on damp wood. Titan lowers his nose to the pier and sniffs the boards, as though the night is still written there in a language only he can read. Jason lets him take his time. Some places hold memory the way hands hold prayer. A white sedan pulls up near the port office, and Emily Parker steps out carefully, one hand carrying a diaper bag, the other resting on the handle of Caleb's stroller. Her sister follows with a thermos and a folded quilt, fussing the way family does when love has been frightened into tenderness. Emily looks stronger now. Color has returned to her face. Her dark blonde hair is tied back beneath a soft blue scarf, and her coat is buttoned neatly against the wind. She sees Jason and smiles, But when she sees Titan, the smile trembles. Caleb is tucked into the stroller beneath a cream blanket, wide awake, watching the bright world with solemn gray-blue eyes. Around his tiny neck, resting safely over his clothes, is the silver cross on a new chain. Emily reaches them and stops. For a moment, no one speaks. The dock speaks for them with its quiet knocks and sighs. Then Titan steps forward, slow and respectful, and lowers his head beside the stroller. Caleb blinks at him. His small hand lifts from the blanket, fingers opening and closing in the air. Titan leans close enough for the child to touch the soft fur above his nose, just as he had in the hospital room. Caleb makes a tiny sound, half breath, half laugh. Emily presses one hand to her mouth. Jason looks away toward the water because some joys are too bright to stare at directly. He remembers him. Emily whispers. Jason keeps his eyes on the harbor. So does Titan. Emily kneels beside the stroller and adjusts Caleb's blanket. I wanted to come back here before we left town, she says. My sister wants us to stay with her inland for a while. Safer, warmer, more help. Jason nods. That sounds like a good place to heal. Emily looks across the pier toward the warehouse, where fresh paint catches the sun. I thought I would be afraid to see it again. Her voice is soft, steady, surprised by its own steadiness. But I am not. It feels different now. Jason understands. A place can be marked by fear, but it does not have to belong to fear forever. Sometimes mercy walks the same boards and changes the ownership. Emily reaches into the diaper bag and pulls out the torn baby blanket, now washed, dried, and carefully stitched along the edges with pale blue thread. The fabric is still worn, still frayed in places, but it has been saved from unraveling. She hands it to Jason. I fixed what I could, she says. I want you to keep a piece of it. Not all of it. Caleb should have most of it someday. But a piece. Jason starts to refuse, then stops. He has learned that refusing gratitude can be another way of making people carry too much alone. Emily has already cut a small square from one corner and sewn its edges neatly. She places it in his palm. It weighs almost nothing, and still Jason feels it settle like something sacred. Thank you, he says. Titan sniffs the little square of cloth and gives one soft breath. Emily smiles through tears that no longer look broken. I told Caleb the story, she says. Only the gentle parts. I told him that when the night was cold, his mother hoped, a Marine followed, and a good dog carried love through the rain. Jason looks down at Titan, who is sitting beside the stroller as if guarding a future instead of a child. That is the truth, he says. The wind moves softly over the harbor, lifting Emily's scarf, stirring the repaired blanket around Caleb's legs. A bell rings from a boat. Somewhere in the marina, bright and small, and the sound crosses the water like a blessing. Emily's sister takes a photograph of them without asking anyone to pose. Jason standing tall but quiet. Emily kneeling beside the stroller. Caleb reaching toward Titan, and Titan watching the baby with the solemn patience of an old soul who has seen darkness and chosen gentleness anyway. Years later, Jason will keep that photograph in the top drawer of his desk beside the small square of blanket. He will look at it on difficult mornings. He will remember the fog, the tapping, the weight of Caleb breathing against his coat. He will remember that not every mission begins with orders. Some begin with a dog standing in the rain, asking a man to trust what cannot yet be seen. Emily stands and holds out her hand. Jason shakes it, but she pulls him carefully into a brief, grateful embrace, the kind that does not need to be explained. Then she kneels and wraps both arms around Titan's neck. The German shepherd holds still, eyes half closed, accepting her thanks with quiet grace. Caleb laughs again, a small bright sound that rises above the dock, above the water, above every shadow that once gathered there. Jason feels the sound move through him and leave something healed in its place. As Emily and her family drive away, Titan watches until the white sedan turns onto the main road and disappears beyond the port gate. Jason rests a hand on the dog's head. The sun lowers behind the warehouses, pouring gold across the repaired boards, the calm water, and the place where fear became rescue. Titan leans against his leg, tired in that peaceful way dogs become tired after love has done its work. Jason closes his fingers around the small square of blanket in his pocket and understands the quiet lesson the night